Hello, and welcome to another edition of Ask the Professor, where we respond to your questions about history, about politics, about culture, political philosophy, the politicization of science, all those things that go into our common life.
Including what's ugly and not. Here's a question, or actually it's two questions in one from Andre. He says, why is Ottawa's architecture so ugly, especially when we have new buildings to be put up, like at Le Breton Flats, and you have very few people bidding for them, and the designs are so uninspiring? And the second part of that question is, what's wrong with roundabouts, he says. They're common in Europe, they're common in all parts of the world, but in North America, people seem stumped by them, even though, this is me asking, they're actually quite superior.
Well, let me start with roundabouts, because roundabouts really are superior. They seem to me to be more organic. They flow instead of having this abrupt mechanical business with the red and green lights. And I really would like to drag environmentalist urban planners around with me in my car as I drive through Ottawa and notice how much time we spend doing the dreaded idling because we keep getting stuck at red lights. The thing about roundabouts, though, and I had this myself when I first encountered it, I was like, what the heck's this? I'm going to crash for sure. It was so unlike what I was used to. Once you get used to them, though, they're wonderful, even though you never quite believe that person on the right's going to stop when you have the right of way. But yeah, I just think roundabouts are going to catch on, slowly but surely, and then we'll get to a kind of critical mass point where everybody's happy with them, and then that'll just become the default. So, on to the vexed question, why is Ottawa architecture so ugly? And Ottawa is hideous. Looking south from Parliament Hill, it affronts the eye. Part of the answer is architecture everywhere has been hideous for the last 50 years. The glass and steel box, if you read Tom Wolfe's book From Bauhaus to Our House, they call that the Yale box. And there's only one way of doing it. It's amazing that they have schools of architecture, because what do? You get a glass and steel box, and you get those pilasters, those square pillars at the bottom that create a faux arcade that does not satisfy your aesthetic or practical needs very well. So it's amazing. We've got the best material, the best engineering, the best design technology in the history of the human race, and we're making the ugliest buildings. But I also think that there's a problem in Ottawa particularly, and that is this lack of vision. This national "yes, we can't" elite slogan seems to me to apply particularly to the capital. Because I've been to other capitals, and I get the idea. London and Paris have the advantage of being old, of having grown up organically before we became enlightened and applied mathematical technique to everything and improved
Amazing how that made it better, huh?
Yeah. But Washington D.C., the mall, it's splendid, it's spectacular, one treasure after another. And I've written about this, how we should knock down all that ghastly stuff just south of Parliament Hill and create a terraced mall for, frisbeeing and picnics in the summer and skating in the winter. And we could have statues commemorating our history going back to Alfred the Great. There'd be room for all these wonderful people like Edward Cook. But you'd say that, no, but it'd be so expensive, and so they can't start. Nothing can ever be done. And when we do try and do something like Le Breton Flats, we make such a botched job of it that you think maybe we better just not do anything. Don't move, anybody. Or you take the new conference center, and we've got, I think, the most beautiful building in Canada, which is the Parliament buildings, which, interestingly enough, are deliberately designed on an older architectural style. And so you're building a new convention center within sight of the Parliament buildings and the Chateau Laurier. So what do you build? A glass and steel box.
It's a fishbowl.
An alien bulge attached to it, as though that were artistic innovation. The simple fact is modernist architecture is ugly on purpose. All these guys like Mies van der Rohe and the Bauhaus school, they were committed Marxists who hated their middle-class clients and decided to punish them for their social order by sticking them in ugly buildings. This is seriously true. They wanted to rub our faces in the ugliness of modern life. Well, they succeeded, and we never got that the joke was on us. Why don't we ever build anything that looks like a castle? That would have been my convention center in Ottawa. It would have had turrets. Imagine that, a round dining hall. People would go home and they'd be talking about it for months afterward. It was so great, the view of the canal and everything. Instead, same old, and it's a deliberate poke in our eye.
Wasn't it Le Corbusier who actually was quite open about this, that he hated people and wanted to have ugly buildings, or am I imagining that?
He might well have done so. I remember one of them said that a house was a machine for living, and the funny thing is he lived in an apartment. But yeah, they don't bother to hide it. It's in plain sight. Modern art is ugly on purpose. It's meant to insult you, and somehow the height of sophistication is to be such an ignoramus that you don't even get the stuff they're saying they're doing to you. So yeah, we've made it hideous on purpose. Nobody would live in a house that looks like these buildings. Look at houses. They're still built the old-fashioned way. You know why? Because it's actually nice. except suburban housing, which is produced according to mathematical models and is pretty bad.
Well, except in the new excerpts, though, where you get those very big, expensive mansions that look really a bit more like the old-fashioned thing.
Yeah, what do people want? They want a yard, they want a fence, they want brick, they want a fireplace, they want a tiled roof, they want all
Wood,
that old stuff.
actual wood.
They want to live in the Shire, and instead they get stuck in the radiant city, and it's just not radiant. It's horrible. Urban planning, we need infill, we need to stack the human units. Everything about it is wrong. So there's a inertia and an impulse to make it ugly that have met to foist cities on us in which no one would want to live. And people think, oh, but that's what cities look like. That's because most cities owe most of what they now look like, especially in North America, to the last 50 years, which is a bleak modernist period. Look at the classrooms, that brutalist raw concrete. That is not done by accident. You should have wainscoting. You should have leather furniture. You should not have neon light. Everything about a classroom is unspeakably hideous, but my students, they're just used to it. They've never seen anything else, and that's part of it. We're numb to it now, and they can insult us and slap us, and we won't protest. Well, we should protest, because you know what? We live in buildings. They should keep the rain off. They should keep the critters out, and they should actually be nice places to be.
All right, then. Well, thanks for that. Folks, if you want to play along and ask your question of the professor, the URL on your screen will take you to the page where it explains how to do it. Thanks, and see you next time.